Start with the end in mind. Let's get started. Think about what it is that you want to accomplish with your horse. For instance, you want to give your horse more exercise. Maybe you can go bike with your horse. Or maybe you want to ride your horse in the near future again. Like, what's your goal? Think about what you want. You want a horse that is active and happy. Maybe you want to go on hand walks, taking your horse out on trails. You want to excel in at Liberty Rectangle, and you want an active horse. So what is it that you want? Really start with the end in mind, because that's your goal, and then work your way back and ask yourself how you can accomplish this. So perfect solutions in a perfect world are, for instance, you have your horse in a paddock paradise, or maybe you have your horse at a HIT active stable. HIT active stable is every horse wears a chip in their halter or on a collar, and then whenever they go to one of those houses, they get the amount of food that is on their chip. So when they have eaten their amount, the door closes and they're done for the day. Or maybe you can have your horse on a track system. But that's in a perfect world. We don't always have access to these systems. So this is where I started in July 2016. Kira was overweight. She had fat packages on her bum, on her ribs, behind her shoulders, and a very crusty neck. And this is in August, when she was diagnosed with laminitis and equine metabolic syndrome. She had a body score of 9, which is the highest. And we have to start where we are at. So I put her in a solitary paddock in order to control the intake of calories. And what happened, within a few days, she started to chew on wood. She also started pacing. She had a lot of stress. She started to munch holes in her slow feeders in order to access the hay a little bit faster, and she even chewed a hole in her shelter. Just in one afternoon, she ate this big hole. So there was a lot of challenges that I had to deal with, that I had to solve. I saw, because of she was pacing, that she had a lot of stress, because she went from being in the herd, being outside from dusk to dawn, suddenly in a paddock. So what can we ask ourselves? Can I do something? That's not really a good question. Better question is, what can I do to change my horse's health? What can I do to improve his situation? If you are asking yourself those specific questions, those really help you find the answers. It's really important to ask the right question. Then the next question can be, how can I do this? What do I need to do in order to accomplish or change that my horse is not chewing on wood? What can I do? When can I start? So other questions are, what can I do to lengthen eating time? Or what can I do to lower the calorie intake of my horse? What can I do to increase burning calories? What can I do to overcome challenges that my horse throws at me? We'll talk about that. And what else can I do to increase my horse's health? So for Kira, I had boots for her because she was very sore. She was on medication when I started hand walking her every day, but I also bought boots, soft boots with her, with soft inlays, specialty inlays for laminitis horses. I made sure she has enrichment. Instead of getting fibers from chewing the wood, I offered a hay net full with straw. And I noticed that on the days that she was, some days she needed more straw and some days she didn't even touch the straw. So I noticed that there was fluctuations in how much straw she ate. She preferred having hay. So I offered soaked hay and I offered it in nets and I double netted it because she couldn't eat it from a slow feeder because she couldn't get it out. So those are things that I did. I hang up turnip. She didn't really like turnip, but there's not too much calories in, it's high fiber. You can hang it and then they can play with it and see if they can get it and bite it, especially if it hangs free like this. It could be potentially enrichment for your horse. Like I said, I had special boots for her, and then when she was recovered, I had a grazing muzzle for her, so that at least she had like freedom and friends, and also forage, but just in lower intake because of the grazing muzzle. I trained her to use a grazing muzzle. Every time I put the muzzle on, she got a click and a treat. I put the treat through the hole there, and then I took it off, and that way I built that the muzzle was associated with something positive. Then I let her out in the field in the beginning, just like half an hour, and in the beginning she just didn't want to eat with the muzzle. Well, that's fine by me, because if she doesn't eat with a muzzle, that means half an hour this day that she didn't eat. So that's how I played with it. Finally, she learned how to use it, how to eat with it. And in the end, she could even eat with a muzzle out of a slow feeder. So there's always solutions to all kinds of challenges that your horse throws at you. We just have to figure out what is possible in your situation. So here are my results. In July, she was body score 9. In August, at the end of August, she looked a lot healthier, and in October she was super thin. So the question is, what can you do? So there is something that's called enrichment, and enrichment helps the horse display his natural behaviors. So it allows and entices horses to offer their horse-specific behaviors. Maybe you can look at things that you can offer to increase grazing or browsing time, like with slow feeders. How can you enrich your horse with social enrichment? So being with you or with other horses. You can enrich their environment with maybe offering certain smells like peppermint oil or other things they might like lavender, and make little drops everywhere so they can sniff it out. Like, as long as it's new, novelty, brain loves novelty. So as long as it's new, they love to explore that, and exploration is really, really good for their brain. You can think of the 3 F's: freedom, forage, and friends. So freedom means movement, for instance, in a track system, or in a paddock where they can move, a big paddock, or maybe even a field. Forage means how can you offer more fiber that has less calories? Maybe you can set up the water and the hay apart so that your horse has to, after they eat their hay and they want a sip of drink, that they really have to move towards that. If you put them next to each other, you don't entice movement, for instance. You can use slow feeders for foraging. You can offer multiple food stations. A longer availability of food, and food toys like the turnip that I just showed. Friends Friends are super important. If horses are with other horses, the stress levels are lower than horses that are kept in solitary. So even if your horse has stall rest, make sure that you do as much as possible to allow your horse to have social interactions. So social housing is can be a part of the third F from friends. In order to reduce stress, they also move each other around. Their social behaviors like play, allo grooming, and they feel really safe. If they feel safe and comfortable, their stress levels are low. High stress levels are really bad for inflammation. So when your horse does have an laminitis attack, please make sure that his stress levels are as low as possible. Even if your horse is used to being stabled alone, it doesn't mean that he doesn't have stress from that, because it's just in their nature to be in a group. So your homework is write down a list of everything you could improve in your horse's management in order to support his health and help him recover from laminitis if he has laminitis, or to prevent laminitis. Mark the ones that are the most realistic to do, and then find ways to execute. If you don't have ways to execute them, talk to me, because there's more possible than you might think. I have seen amazing changes in horses management just by asking, just by thinking out of the box. And yeah, I have so many ideas to help your horse improve the management. And even if you think it's not possible, there's no boarding facilities like that in my area, I can recommend start looking, because you never know. You don't know until you know, because once I had to move Kira from her stable where she was boarded, and I thought there were no other stables that offered group housing. I did find multiple other boarding facilities. So never say never. Find ways to execute, and I can help you. So what can you improve in your horse's management? What ideas spark joy? What do you think will work for you? How can I help you? And let's talk about it.